All right, everybody, what's going on? How y'all doing? And welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk, the show we cover the SWAC inside and out. I'm your tour guide around the SWAC. See what's coming at you. And we are in week 7, man. We're gonna preview all the games that are taking place on this weekend. We have a Friday game and 4 Saturday games, so 5 games on the schedule, all SWAC games. And so we're gonna talk about each and every one of them, and I'm gonna give my thoughts and my prediction, my winner, and all of that. But before we do any of that, man, I wanted to give my thoughts and prayers out to everybody in the Tampa Bay area. I know got Hurricane Milton coming through. That area is very special to me. I spent a lot of my adult life there, so I really credit being in the area as making me a fine, outstanding gentleman. So I really have a close connection to that place. I have a lot of friends still there, and so I'm really hoping that they can be safe going through a second hurricane in like 2 weeks. So just really prayers out to them and everybody else in Florida, of course, and any other area that may be affected. But the Tampa Bay area is like home to me, so it really hits a little close when things happen now. So I just want to give my thoughts and prayers out to everybody. Hope everybody's safe. If you couldn't get away, man, please be safe and just take advice from any official that gives you advice, and try to stay safe. And we're praying for y'all out here. So with that being said, man, we're gonna also one other prayer goes out to Caleb Knox from UAPB. I know he suffered an injury this past weekend at Alcorn, but he seems to be in good spirits. So prayers go out to him and his family as well. Hopefully everything is fine and he can shake back at some point and get his career back on track. But otherwise, we still praying, and prayers go out to the family on that. Um, we have our week 7 pick'em is live. Link is on my Twitter account, which is Swag Talk 76. It's also on my Instagram and Facebook, which are both Swag Talk. And the link will be in the description below. I will be dropping the leaderboard tomorrow, so y'all make sure y'all keep it locked in for that. This is gonna run all the way to the end of the season. The winner will get a personalized championship belt. So if you're in it, keep on keeping on. If you want to get in just for the fun of it, feel free to click that link and get your picks in. So we've been having a really strong turnout every week, and everybody's doing pretty good. So we're gonna start to have some separation at some point, because we have a pretty much a log jam in the top spot. So y'all keep it locked in for that leaderboard to drop. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We over 1,300 subs. Love to get to 1,500 soon. So if y'all can help us reach that goal, I would definitely appreciate it. Like the video, comment your thoughts, and hit that notification bell, because from time to time I drop videos that are not scheduled, like the one that I dropped on Saturday. So I try not to do videos like that too often. But if something moves me and I do it, if you hit that notification bell, you'll be alerted to when the videos like that drop, or any other video that's outside of our normal Wednesday, Saturday, Thursday schedule. So speaking of Thursday, Swag Smoke is on Thursday live 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. We do lives on Saturdays after the games. So keep it locked here for that. That's like we call it therapy time. I declined therapy time this week because I needed to just sit down and get that stuff off of my chest, and I wanted to do it on my own. So I was a bad patient. I declined therapy last week, but typically we will go live when we can on Saturdays after games. So y'all definitely keep it locked in for that. So let's go ahead and get into it, man. That's enough of the time wasting and enough of the housekeeping. So we're gonna start off with the first game of the weekend, which is on Friday. Pine Bluff is hosting Prairie View. That's an 8:15 p.m. Central Time kickoff, late kick on Friday. So the game is on ESPN2. So if you want to sit down and you're not at a high school game or you're not traveling to your destination. Well, I mean, even if you're traveling, you can pull it up. But this is a game. This game is gonna be a little bit more interesting than many of us thought at the beginning of the season because Prairie View is a team that's they've been kind of up and down. Um, they've had their struggles on really on the offensive side of the ball more than anything, but they picked up a big win against Grambling a couple weeks ago, which kept them in the SWAC race. They are 2-4, 1-2 in conference. But they're coming off of a loss to Incarnate Word on Saturday, which they had um, multiple explosive touchdowns, but they really couldn't drive the ball in that game. So you want to see consistency from this team offensively. You want to see them be able to sustain drives and move the ball down the field, and score points that way. Obviously, if you hit explosive play, that's always great. It's always good to have those big touchdowns. But there are times that you're gonna need to be able to drive the ball down the field, and they just weren't able to do that for any stretch of the game last week. Pine Bluff's 1-4. They have been kind of a surprise team to an extent, especially offensively. They're 1-4. They're 0-1 in conference. Their offense has been a lot better than some of us expected. Um, they are third in the league in scoring offense. They're scoring over 29 points per game. And they're facing the Prairie View defense that gives up 36 points a game. So if you're Pine Bluff, that definitely looks good for you. One thing that Pine Bluff has done pretty much all season, except for like the Arkansas game, is get off to pretty good starts. They had a pretty close first quarter against Central Arkansas before the wheels fell off. They led Alcorn 14-0 before Alcorn got into it and then kind of held them off. They had a pretty good start against Tennessee State before losing that game. So they have had opportunities to put points on the board. They've had opportunities to move the ball. They just haven't been able to keep things going all game. They haven't played that full game yet. And I feel like if they do, they will be a team that's going to mess up somebody Saturday. If you're playing them later in the season, it could be a scary thing for you. I'm not saying that they are a great team or they world beaters or anything like that, but they have the potential with their offense to cause you some problems. Now, the other side of the ball is a little bit more dicey for them. Defensively, they give up 40.5 points per game. So they can't really keep teams off the scoreboard. Prairie View offense scores about 22 points a game. So for Prairie View, you want to take advantage of a Pine Bluff defense that has really struggled all season. Pine Bluff's defense is giving up over 482 yards per game and 7 yards per play, which is the third highest in the league. So their defense has been susceptible to giving up big plays all season. Prairie View's defense is a little bit more middle of the pack, giving up 394 yards per game. The Panthers offensively are averaging under 300 yards per game on offense, and Pine Bluff's averaging 348 yards per game on offense. So to me, both offenses are gonna be key in this game. But Pine Bluff defense, I think, is probably the X factor in this game. If they can ever consistently make things happen defensively, I think this can be a team that's gonna cause some problems. Now, Prairie View, they haven't really been able to do a lot consistently this season. They're struggling to run the ball. They're averaging 89 yards per game on the ground. But Pine Bluff's defense is giving up almost 250 yards per game. So Prairie View does have some weapons in the run game. They have a nice stable of guys. Connor Wisham, Scooter Adams, who caught a big touchdown against Incarnate Word on Saturday, and Lamaje McDowell, who's a big bruising back, who I would love to see get as many carries as he can, especially in a game like this. I think he's averaging 2.5 yards per carry, which to me, that number should be higher. He has 40 carries on the season, which is the second most. I would love to see him get more carries, especially in a game like this, because you want to be able to run the ball against Pine Bluff. They're susceptible to the run, and you want to be able to take advantage of that. And not only that, but you running the ball controls the time of possession, and it keeps that Pine Bluff offense off the field. And because that offense is still kind of young, maybe if you can get out in front of them, they'll make a couple mistakes here and there. So to me, Prairie View being able to run the ball is vital. They really struggled with that this season. But like I said, they're facing a defense that is porous against the run. On the other side of the ball, Pine Bluff's offense is averaging 105 yards per game, which again is not great shakes, but their passing attack probably is what fuels their offense. And Prairie View's defense is giving up 162 yards per game. So both defenses have problems stopping the run. And neither offense has been great running the ball. Like I said, where Pine Bluff shines offensively this season is through the air. They're averaging 243 yards per game. And they're facing a Prairie View defense that gives up about 232 yards per game through the air. So to me, that's kind of the advantage that Pine Bluff has. Prairie View's opponents are completing 60% of their passes. So defensively, Prairie View's had a tough go of it all season. And I think Pine Bluff, with they have a nice underrated receiver quarterback connection in Mekhi Higgins and Giovanni Gibson. Giovanni Gibson has 22 catches for 575 yards and 5 touchdowns. He averaging over 26 yards per catch. So he can definitely take the top off. He's averaging over 115 yards per game. Had a big game against Alcorn on Saturday. I should know because I picked him in our HBCU fantasy football game, and he got me first place. So, that's a guy who has found a good connection with Mekhi Higgins. Now, Mekhi Higgins does still have some issues with holding the ball a little bit too long. He's taken a few sacks that he probably shouldn't take. And this team has allowed, they've allowed 18 sacks this season. So he's really put himself in harm's way. If there's anything I think that can hamper them is the fact that they have struggled with protecting the quarterback. He struggled with decision making from time to time because he's still a young quarterback. He's only a sophomore. This is, he started the bulk of last season, but this is like the first year that he's the guy. So he's still making some young quarterback mistakes. But like I said, that connection with Gibson is tremendous, and they've been shining all season. And it's not just Gibson that can make some things happen through the air. You also have Amani Roan, who has over 230 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Damon Dawkins, who has been around a long time. He has 134 yards and 1 touchdown. The Pine Bluff run game could be solid. O'Shawn Ross, B.J. Curry, and Jonas Davis are all guys who can get it done. Ross has 164 yards and 4 touchdowns. They just have to be able to be consistent. That, to me, that's the key to this team is consistency offensively. Now, they have really struggled in consistently moving the ball down the field. They're only at 27% on third downs. So they have really stalled themselves out. They are at 50% on fourth down, but they really stalled themselves out on third down, which is a drive killer and a momentum killer. And defensively, they give up 56% on third down. So when their defense is on the field, they do not get off the field. They stay on the field extremely too long. The offense has been able to score, but they can't keep the pace all game. And so, to me, this is a battle of wills, a battle of styles. I think Prairie View is gonna want to run the ball. They really, they're still trying to figure out the quarterback situation. They've juggled QBs for the most part this season, and I don't think that's gonna end. Jaden Johnson has been the quarterback of note the last game and a half. They have Shamar Savage, who's a weapon that I've been saying forever that needs to get the ball. He had a big game Saturday, and he leads the team with 378 yards and 3 touchdowns. Trey John Spiller's another guy who can make some plays happen. He has 287 yards on 22 catches. Chris Heron's a guy who can make some things happen, and Kobe Cavill is a deep threat. He's not a big guy, but he can get down the field. And they just have to be able to make things happen consistently in the passing game. Defensively, both teams are kind of trying to figure some things out. Bryce Turner is a guy for Prairie View who is around the ball a lot. He has 39 tackles, which ties for the league lead. Aiden Jones is a young guy that has made some things happen defensively. And um, Fred Stokes Jr. is a guy on the defensive line who's really been disruptive. He has 6.5 tackles for loss on the season and 2 sacks. So you expect to see him kind of get back there and make some things difficult for Pine Bluff. Um, Pine Bluff defensively, like I said, they really struggled with doing a lot. They just haven't been able to make a lot happen. They have 22 tackles for loss on the season and only 3 sacks. They do have 4 interceptions, so they have done a decent job with turnovers. Special teams, they're averaging 35 yards per punt, and they're 2 of 2 on field goals. So they haven't really had a lot of opportunities to kick field goals, or they chosen not to. And so that, those are other points that they probably could be getting, but they don't. And their return unit is not really spectacular, about 20 yards per kick return and 7 yards per punt return. Prairie View, on the other hand, in special teams, they have a strong kick game. Efren Jasso is averaging 41 yards per punt, and Guerrero Garcia Rodriguez is 9 of 12 on field goals with a longer 54. So that's definitely a weapon for the Panthers. Um, their return games haven't really gotten a lot going yet. So this game, to me, like I said, it comes down to Prairie View. I think Prairie View, they know that each week that they step on the field now, being 1-2 already, all 3 games, all division games, they know they don't have any margin for error. They really can't afford to lose games at this point. So I think you're going to see this team come out week in and week out with their back against the wall mentality and play, you know, play as like a wounded animal. They're cornered, and a wounded animal is dangerous. And Prairie View's gonna play with that desperation week in and week out. It's a 1-game playoff for them for the rest of the season. Pine Bluff, like I said, they're still trying to figure some things out. They can be feisty. They're gonna cause problems for teams, but I don't think that they are there yet in terms of being able to put it all together. I think Prairie View wins this game. I do think it's going to be a closer game than we may have thought coming into the season, because I do think Pine Bluff can score points, and I think they will cause some problems for Prairie View. But I think Prairie View run game gets going in this game because Pine Bluff's run defense has not been good all season, and I think being able to run the ball in a game like this is going to open up the passing game for Prairie View. And I think those receivers for Prairie View are going to hit some big plays, because Pine Bluff defense does give up a lot of yards through the air as well, and their opponents are completing over 70% of their passes. So I really think that the opportunity is there for Prairie View to kind of get themselves back on track. They climbed to 2-2, and they're sitting in a better position than they were a couple of weeks ago, coming back into conference play. So I think the Panthers win this game. I think it's going to be like a 27-20 type of game. That Friday game is kind of my only concern. It's a short week. How guys handle playing on a Friday. Coach Hampton said, it's no real big deal because, you played high school ball on Fridays. So, I think they're going to approach it one way, but, it's always still an odd day to have a college game, and you never know sometime on those weekday games. But I think Prairie View wins this game 27-20. I think it's going to be entertaining. I think Pine Bluff's still going to be that team that kind of jumps out. But I think Prairie View's running game is going to be the difference in this game. And like I said, I expect Lamar J. McDowell to really have a big game here, and really just pound Pine Bluff into submission late in the game. I think, a guy 6'3", 225 can really wear down the defense, and I think that's going to open it up for everybody else. So I like the Panthers in this one to win a close one. That takes us to our next game, which is Alabama A&M and Bethune-Cookman. This is homecoming for the Bulldogs. So, with that, everything that comes with that, the distractions and everything. But this is also a 2 p.m. kickoff. HBCU Go broadcast, so you can definitely watch this one on TV. So um, should be an entertaining game again. Bethune Cookman has had two close games the last 2 weeks. Where um, the last two games that they played, they were off this past week. Um, they lost a heartbreaker to Clark um, on a last second 55-yard field goal. They kind of got themselves back into the game against Bama State and ultimately ended up losing by 5. Late game penalties were the thorn in their side in both of those losses. There was a late personal foul against Bethune Cookman, again, the Clark game that extended that drive and allowed Clark to get into field goal range. They had a delay of game on their final drive against Alabama State, which faltered their drive for a game-winning touchdown. So they have to find a way to get out of their own way. I think this team, they're a little bit snake bit because, like I said, they're 0-5 and they just haven't really looked consistently good. And having that Clark loss on you definitely does kind of weigh things down a lot. Bama State loss wasn't really a surprise, but the fact that you got 14 points in like 35 seconds or whatever, it kind of made that game a lot closer than what it was. But this is another team that's kind of having some struggles. They're only scoring 18 points per game, and they're giving up over 40 points per game. Now they're facing the Alabama A&M defense that's also giving up 40 points per game, and they've given up 45 to Jackson State. I think 54 to Austin Peay and 73 to Auburn. So even with the Kentucky State and the Georgetown Kentucky game, they've given up so many points against FCS, a better competition. Now against Jackson State, they were able to make a spirited comeback and lose by 7, but they still haven't really been able to put things together against FCS competition. Their offense is scoring 26 points per game. Bethune Cookman, when you kind of look at what this team does, they don't really have a lot going on weapons wise on their offense. They have Cam Ransom at quarterback, and then there's just a bunch of other guys trying to find their way. This offense is averaging 261 yards per game, 4.2 yards per play. They're going up against the Alabama A&M defense is giving up 390 yards per game and 7.2 yards per play, which is the second highest number in the league. So the opportunity to move the ball is there in this game for Bethune Cookman, but they just haven't really been able to do it. Even against Clark, they started off so fast and then they faded out. Against Bama State, they just had that one spurt and then not a lot else. And then, at home against Mercer, they didn't do anything. And then the FBS games were what they were. On the other side of the coin, Alabama A&M leads the league in total offense at 433 yards per game. Now, again, I don't want to take a lot away from them because they, you play who you play, but they do have 2 sub D1 games on that number of games. But like I said, when they fell behind against Jackson State, they made a spirited comeback, and that definitely helps a lot with your numbers. And Bethune Cookman has really struggled on defense, giving up over 480 yards per game. Now, the Bulldogs, they want to run the football. They're fourth in rushing. They've run the ball 184 times this season, which is the third most, the fifth most in the league. So they want to run the football, and they're pretty good at it. 164 yards per game, 4.5 yards per carry. They're facing the run defense of Bethune Cookman has given up over 244 yards per game and 5.6 yards per carry. So that's a big plus if you're Alabama A&M to be able to run the ball in this game. Donovan Eaglin should do well in this game. He's kind of been up and down all season, but this could be his coming out game. Ryan Morrow as well. Xavier Langford got some good burn last week. So if he's playing, he's definitely a guy who can run the ball. Quard Brown also has run the ball fairly decently at quarterback. Avion Smith also So all three of the quarterbacks who play can run the ball, and you put that with the backs that they have, that's a recipe for success if you're A&M against a Bethune-Cookman defense that has really had a hard time moving the ball on the ground. When you look at it on the other side, Bethune-Cookman has not run the ball well all season, 82 yards per game, 2.4 yards per carry. And A&M's defense is giving up 146 yards per game, which is third in the league. So they've done a good job stopping the run. Bethune-Cookman, like I said, they've struggled running the ball. Cam Ransom is their leading rusher. Their quarterback, he has 149 yards on the season and 2.5 yards per carry and 4 touchdowns. After that, Courtney Reese has 123 yards, and then there's not a lot of production after that. This team hasn't really broke a lot of big runs. 29 yards is their longest run. So again, the run game favors A&M on both sides, offense and defense. Now, I will say last season, Alabama A&M got gashed on the ground by Bethune-Cookman. Probably the best running game Bethune-Cookman had all last season. So you can't discount, the Wildcats being able to move the ball on the ground, but it just hasn't really been enough for them this season. The passing attack for Bethune-Cookman hasn't been that much better. They're ninth at 178 yards per game, completing 59% of their passes. They have 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. A&M is 11th in passing defense, giving up over 243 yards per game. So if you're Bethune-Cookman, you have to find a way to attack this team. I still think Bethune-Cookman should I think running the ball should be an objective for them, but they have hit some big pass plays in a couple of these games. So Malik Huggins, Kobe Stewart, Lorenzo Jenkins, Maury Stewart are all guys who have made some big plays. They all have at least one catch over 30 yards. So each one of these guys could be a big play down the field for Cam Ransom. Also, a guy like Darnell Dees, who had a big touchdown against Clark of 70 yards. That was his only reception of the season, but that's a guy, if you can get the ball in his hands, he can be a difference maker. And of course, he's one of the best kick returners in the league. So that's always going to be a factor in a game like this. Alabama A&M gave up a kick return to Jackson State last week. So the possibility for Darnell Dees, who has 2 touchdowns this season already, could be an X factor. That hidden yardage in the return game definitely skews that way for the Wildcats. They're going to need some help in this game because their defense just hasn't really been able to make a lot happen. They're 10th in passing defense. So they just haven't really been able to make things happen. But the odd thing about this defense is that second in sacks at 15. So they've done a good job of getting pressure on the quarterback. But if they don't get home, then they give up plays. So it's kind of like a crapshoot, how they turn out there. They just haven't really been able to do much. A&M has 11 sacks on the season. And A&M offense has given up 10 sacks, and Bethune-Cookman's offense has given up 13. So whoever can, I think this is another game that whoever can stop the run and, kind of force the other team to kind of do some things in the air is going to have a good chance. But A&M's a good passing offense as well. They're first in the league in passing offense. So I think a lot of the advantages in this game go to the Bulldogs. They like I said, they just have to settle on a quarterback. And, they have a lot of weapons offensively. I think they have the edge defensively in this game. They're at home, and I think that bodes well for them. I like the Bulldogs in this game because I think they remember last season. I don't think they're going to let what happened last year happen this year. And Bethune-Cookman is a team who's kind of clinging to a shred of hope in this season. I don't think conference championship is the thing for them, but a winning season is slowly slipping away Right now at 0-5, they would have to basically win out to have a winning season. So that all starts on Saturday. But I think A&M, they've been shown to be able to score points and they've been shown to be able to move the ball. They just have to kind of keep turnovers out of the way. And that's been a theme for the Bulldogs the last couple of years: turnovers, turnovers, turnovers. So if they can take care of the ball and they can keep Darnell Dees in check, hell, I would kick it out of bounds and give them the ball at 35. Or, if you can kick it out the back of the end zone, I think that's definitely a key factor for you. Make them have to drive the ball down the field, because I don't think Bethune-Cookman's offense can consistently do that. So I like the Bulldogs in this game. I think they're going to score a good bit of points. Bethune, I'm not quite sure. So I like 35-14. I think the Bulldogs get their revenge from last season. They have a good homecoming, and they kind of keep the ship moving on. I think they take their second half momentum from last week and carry it into this week. Bethune-Cookman, like I said, they're having a rough go of it. I don't know where they go from here. They have a lot of soul searching to do, and not a lot of time to do it in. So I think the Bulldogs get the win here, and they keep themselves kind of in the hunt in the East Division, and that takes us to our third game on the weekend, and that is Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils head into Montgomery to take on the Alabama State Hornets. Valley is Valley. They're coming off of a bye week. I thought they played decently in spurts against Alcorn a couple of weeks ago. They had a pretty solid game against Lamar a few weeks ago, but other than that, they've been bombarded by most teams. And even in a game where I thought they played okay against Alcorn, they still got beat pretty soundly, 42-21. So they, even in a game that you can kind of say was a positive, they still had a lot of negatives in it. This team just hasn't really been, they just haven't really been there. I know a couple of weeks ago, Coach Wade said he was going to do a real thorough look at some things and be more hands-on with what's going on. So, whether that means, getting rid of guys or moving guys around or whatever, that remains to be seen. They're really in they're in a tough spot right now. They're sitting at 0-5, 0-1 in conference. Like Bethune-Cookman, they need some positivity. I don't think this is the team to get it against. Even with Bama State's offensive struggles, I think they are the heavy favorite in this game. Valley is a team who really hasn't done a lot. They're only scoring 12 points per game, and they're going up against a defense that's giving up 19. So it's going to be hard for Valley to move the ball. It's going to be hard for Valley to score. Now, one thing I will say about Valley is they're going to fight all game long. So, they're going to dig in and they're going to, do their best, but they just don't have the weapons to stay in it. Now, Bama State offensively has not really been efficient for various reasons. Obviously, playing your fifth quarterback, this in 5 games is definitely going to hamper anybody. The offense is only averaging 18.8 points per game. And like I said, the defense is stout. Valley's defense is giving up almost 50 points per game. So the potential for Alabama State to put points on the board is there because Valley gives them up. But Bama State offensively just is one-dimensional right now. They're a very strong running team, but they haven't really had a lot of success passing the ball. Total offense, they had 288 yards per game. Valley's at 245. So neither offense has been great there. Like I said, Bama State defense leads the league in total defense. Valley's defense is last in total defense. Bama State is second in the league in rushing at over 200 yards per game. They ran for over 200 yards against FAMU. They ran for over 300 against Bethune-Cookman. They've determined that they're going to run the football. They want to run it, and they're going to run it. And they're averaging 4.7 yards per carry. They have a ton of guys who can carry the ball, young guns that can carry the ball, that can make some things happen. They can hit big plays. They had a couple of big runs against FAMU early. Jamari Holesclaw is averaging 73 yards per game. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet, but he's a guy who can really break one. He has a 67 yarder as his loan. Daquan Kinsey has a 66 yarder as his loan. He's averaging 53 yards per game. He has one touchdown. AJ Gates is another guy who can carry the ball. Marcus Harris, Takaris Bozeman had a touchdown against FAMU. So they want to run the ball, and they have a lot of guys that can run the ball. Um, to me, for Bama State, the issue is gonna be moving the ball through the air. Now, this may not be the game where the passing game is gonna be necessary, but they're averaging 85 yards per game through the air. That's dead last. They completing 44% of their passes. Again, that's dead last. They've only attempted 79 passes, which is last. They've only completed 35, which is last. So they haven't even thrown the ball a lot. They are telling you, getting off the bus, they're the opposite of what Archie Cooley used to say. Archie Cooley used to say, we got two running plays. We're gonna run on the field and run off. They're gonna run on the field, they're gonna run onto the field, they're gonna run while they're on the field, and then they're gonna run off the field. They are not really gonna throw it. So if you're Valley, you need to just put as many people in the box as you can and make them throw the ball. Now, if they do, Valley's pass defense is not that bad. They're middle of the pack in passing defense. They give up 228 yards per game. So they have had some success stopping the pass, but they've been so porous against the run that teams don't really have to throw the ball. Valley's opponents have attempted 130 passes on the season, which is like 8th in the league. So teams don't really throw a lot against them because they can run it so well. So I think if you Bama State, that bodes well for you. Valley's passing offense is, they're 8th in the league at 185 yards per game, but they have 14 interceptions. They have really been turnover prone in the passing game. And, a lot of that comes from the fact that they played, again, like a few other teams this season. They've played a few guys at quarterback. Jaden Sisk, Tajarian Williams, and Ruben Lee, they've all got extensive action this season, and they've all thrown at least one interception. Williams has 7, Sisk has 6. So their touchdown interception ratio is horrible. Their running game hasn't really been great. They do have 2 receivers I like a lot, Nathan Rembert and Carrick Ross. Those are 2 guys that can make some things happen if you get the ball in their hands. But Valley's had a hard time protecting their quarterback. They're giving up 16 sacks this season. You're facing the Bama State defense who's gonna put the pressure on. So I think Bama State defensively has the edge in this game. I think the defense is the best unit in this game on either side of the ball. I do also like Robert McMahon as a returner for Bama State. I think he's always a threat to make something happen. And I like Bama State being able to run the ball. I don't think Bama State has a lot of problems in this game. I know Valley can be pesky. And if you try to knock them out the box, you probably don't. But if you just play your game, eventually you're going to wear them down. And I think Bama State defense is going to hold Valley down pretty much all night. I don't know how much Bama State's offense is going to score. I do think they're going to run the ball a ton. I don't think they're going to throw it a ton like they've been doing. I don't think they're going to get outside of that in this game. Later in the season, I think they're gonna have to be able to throw the ball because to me that was one of the reasons why they kind of faltered against FAMU. They couldn't throw the ball, even though they ran the ball pretty well. They just couldn't complement their run game. I think this is another game that they don't really need their passing game, and I think they win this game. I'm gonna say 27-3. It probably could be worse. But this is I call these Bama blowouts because back in the early the late 2010s, Alabama defense used to be so stout. and the offense was always kind of like a grinded out, punch in the mouth type of offense. They wouldn't score a lot of points, but you wouldn't score a lot either. So even if you lost 24-3 or 31-7, it felt way worse than what the score looked like. And I think this is going to be that kind of game where you look at the score, you may say, well, it looked like Bama State had some tough time with the Devils, but this is going to be one of those games where I think they win it comfortably. They, through no fault of their own, through horrible injury luck, probably the worst injury luck I've ever seen with a team in terms of quarterbacks since like Maryland, like in 2012. There's no fault of their own. So they've been able to adjust and kind of make do. But eventually they're going to have to be able to do more than make do. I think this week is not that week. So I think they win this game 27-3. And I think they kind of find themselves in a better position moving forward. That takes us to our next game on the schedule, which is Southern and Texas Southern, the Battle of the Southerns. Two teams, I really don't know how to approach this game, especially from a Southern standpoint. You can't throw out the Nichols game because it was a non-conference game. That was a horrible game. That was a horrible effort for Southern. That was probably as bad. That's probably one of the worst losses I've witnessed as a Southern fan, and I'm 47 years old, about to be 48 in a few days. I've seen Southern lose some bad games. I've seen Southern get blowed out 65-18 by FAMU. I've seen Jackson State put points on Southern. I've seen Alcorn beat Southern to death. I've seen TSU put 54 on Southern and Mumford. But this game, I've seen Pine Bluff put 50 plus on Southern and Mumford. This game to me was probably one of the worst games that I've seen. I don't think this team looked like they were prepared coming out of a bye week. They just never really could get anything going defensively. They gave up some big plays. Now they kind of held their own for a minute defensively, but they got gassed on the ground, and they allowed Nichols to have some success through the air, which has made everything even easier for the Colonels. Do I think Southern's gonna play better in this game? Yes, because I just feel like SWAC play is different. So I think they'll be in a better position in this game. I still think they are the favorite coming into this game, but not by much, because until they play consistent football, especially on the offensive side of the ball, every game is going to be a dogfight for them. Southern hasn't really shown that they can just line up and move the ball on somebody. That second half against Prairie View, not counting the Savannah State game because that's a D2 game, but that second half against Prairie View was probably the best football they played against an FCS opponent all season on both sides of the ball. They had a great 3 quarters against McNeese. But other than that, this team hasn't really shown the propensity to be a good offense. They've struggled to move the ball. They've shown that they can run it, but they can't consistently run it. They can throw the ball, but they haven't consistently thrown the ball. The turnovers have been an issue for this team, and like a few other games this week, quarterback. If you're Southern, is Xavier Tsek going to be available? If he is, do you start him after him being out for 2.5 games? Or do you go with Noah Biden, who's coming off of a very bad performance, his second consecutive bad performance at home? He does have that Prairie View game under his belt, which he helped lead that comeback. So you can't take that away from him. I don't really know where this team stacks up. Southern offensively, 20 points per game. That's 7th. Texas Southern is 11th in scoring defense at 18 points per game. I don't really think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game by either team. Both defenses are pretty, are better than probably both offenses. TSU's defense does give up 30 points per game. Southern's defense gives up 27 points per game. Obviously, that's skewed heavily for that 51 points that they gave up. But Southern defensively is still in the top 2 in total defense. The number 2 at 288 yards per game. That's even giving up all that yardage to Nichols. So I think Southern defensively is going to be fine in this game. TSU is fourth in total defense. So I think their defense is going to be fine in this game. Whoever can find offense consistently in this game is going to be the team that wins. Southern is fourth in total offense at 354 yards per game. They average 5.2 yards per play. Texas Southern is 11th in total offense at 253 yards per game. They average 4.3 yards per play. That gives Southern an edge on defense. I think Southern should be able to play a better game against TSU. Now TSU is going to want to run the football. They ran the ball 184 times. They ran the ball 198 times this season, which is fourth in the league, and they're averaging about 150 yards per game. So they are gonna line up and they're gonna run. Southern, even with the game against JSU and the game against Nichols, where they gave up over 200 yards in both games, they're still only giving up 149 yards per game on the ground. Southern defensively, they should be able to make some things happen against Texas Southern. I expect them to load up the box against TSU and force TSU to throw the ball. Texas Southern defense giving up 169 yards per game on the ground. Southern is at 101. They had 32 yards rushing against Nichols. They had like 30-something yards against Jackson State. Now, they did run for 191, I think it was, against Purdue, but they haven't really had a lot of success running the football. Now, they do have guys who can run the ball. Dylan, Rhymes, and Russell, they all are capable of breaking big runs. They had fumbleitis on Saturday. They have to get rid of that. They cannot turn the ball over. Unforced fumbles at that. They can't have that in this game. Southern, like I said, the team that can run the ball in this game is going to probably be the team that has the most success. Now, Southern is a better passing team than Texas Southern. TSU hasn't even thrown 100 passes this season. They're like Bama State. They're not even really looking to throw the ball. Southern is going to air it out. They have 173 pass attempts on the season, which is third. Now, how much of that is because they were blown out in 2 games and they had to throw? How much of that is that? And how much of it is that they just want to throw the ball a little bit more? That remains to be seen. But I think Southern being able to throw the ball is a key factor in this game, especially if they can run the ball. If you watch the second half of that Prairie View game, when Southern was able to use their play action, that helped their passing game, and Southern wants to throw the tight ends. Those crossing routes are going to be there. The RPO is going to be there if you can run the football. And it also just depends on who's behind center. Noah Biden, like I said, he had a good second half against Prairie View, but other than that, he's really been inconsistent. He's completed less than 50% of his passes. He has 6 interceptions. And the interceptions he threw Saturday were not pretty. You can say the same about pretty much every interception. He's thrown 2 interceptions he's threw 2 interceptions in like 2 games or something like that. He had an interception against Savannah State that was not pretty. When he misses bad. But Whitfield, Darren Morris, Tyler Kirkwood, who has some inconsistency, and Quay Davis are receivers that can kind of make some things happen. The tight ends and Fuller and Minor should be a key factor in this game. To me, that's the difference in the game. Now, TSU does have weapons in the passing game. I like Jaron Johnson. Trenton Leary is a guy who can make some things happen. He has 2 touchdowns on the season. Kieran Charlo, has 10 catches as well this season. 109 yards. He's been able to make some things happen. They do miss AJ Bennett, who is their deep threat, but they have to be able to move the ball through the air. If you're Jordan Davis, you're gonna have to be able to make some things happen because Southern's gonna be aggressive. Southern's gonna send the house. They're gonna line up pretty much man to man and rush the quarterback. And knowing that you can't really throw, Southern's gonna pin their ears back and get after you. So being able to, run the ball is gonna help TSU, but being able to throw the ball is really gonna help them. That can be the difference maker in this game. TSU has some solid defensive guys. Javis Williams 35 tackles. Isaiah Bargerty, 31 tackles. Simmons, Massey, Cox has been strong. Henson, these guys can all make some things happen. Southern, their D line is probably their strength in games that they've been successful in. Games they struggled in, the D line has been blown off the ball, or at least they haven't been able to match the physicality of the other team's offensive line. I don't see TSU with that kind of offensive line that they faced against Jackson State and Nichols. So that would probably lead to Southern having a few more tackles for loss in this game. And, like I said, a team who stays in positive situations and out of long down and distances is going to probably be the team that wins this game. I think this is going to be an ugly game because I don't think either offense is amazing. Neither offense has even shown me that they can be amazing. Both teams just have to, it's going to be a war of attrition. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game. If you're looking for pretty football, this probably not going to be the game. Both teams are in the mid 30% on third down, so you're probably going to see a lot of 3 and outs. Southern is allowing 31% on third down defense. TSU is at 41%. So, even with those blowout losses that Southern's had, the defense has been solid in all their other games. So I really feel like Southern's defense is probably the difference maker in this game. TSU defense not that far behind. Both offenses have to be able to make something happen. Because I think Southern is a better passing team out of the two, that to me is the edge. Is the edge in this game. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of points in this game. I like Southern in this game 21-18. I don't see a lot of points in this game. I don't see a pretty game. It's gonna be a war of attrition. Whoever survives is gonna be a team that just, like I said, they're just gonna survive. They're just gonna have to make it through and move on to the next one. So if you're looking for pretty football, this is probably not going to be the game for you. I would just say, if you're a fan of either team, just buckle up and get ready for a game and hope your team make it out on the other side. Neither offense is going to wow you, and I don't expect that to be different this week. And that takes us to our last game on the schedule. That is Grambling and Alcorn. The G-men take on the Braves of Alcorn State. Alcorn they've been a team who's kind of turned the corner a little bit because they've been able to run the ball the last couple of weeks. They really had it rough in the non-conference, playing 2 FBS games and a hot McNeese team sandwiched in between Edward Waters. Grambling, they have not been able. They've been a team who've been able to turn teams over. When they can't turn you over, it's been a little bit of a struggle for them. But I still think this is a team who that breakout offensively is right there. I think Grambling is so close to having a breakout game on offense. They just haven't done it yet. Alcorn, like I said, they found a running game and they lead the league in rushing now. So they're averaging 209 yards on the ground per game, and that's basically on the strength of 3 games against Edward Waters, Valley, and Pine Bluff. They ran the ball extremely well the last 2 weeks. Jacorian Sewell is a guy who ran the ball extremely well the last couple of weeks. He has 364 yards on the ground. He's averaging 60 yards per game, 5.6 yards per carry. He has 2 touchdowns. Xavier Vaughn has been a rushing threat all season. He's averaging 78 yards per game. He has 469 yards and 8 touchdowns. He's averaging 6.7 yards per carry. That's a nice 1-2 punch. And that's been able to help them move the ball offensively because their passing game hasn't really been there. The passing game has gotten better. The passing game has kind of gotten better, but they're still not there. They're 10th in passing offense at 161 yards per game. Grambling defensively has allowed 250 yards per game through the air, and on the ground, Grambling has allowed 153 yards per game. So all like the Alcorn, if you look at a trend through three of these games, teams want to run the ball, and Alcorn definitely wants to run the football and play good defense. Grambling's gonna be, they're gonna be tasked to stop that. The defense has been pretty solid in stopping teams moving the ball, but they've given up big plays as well. That second half against Prairie View, they gave up a couple big plays on short fields. They gave up some heavy yardage against Texas A&M Commerce, but they had a lot of turnovers. A lot of takeaways. Same thing with JSU. They gave up yardage, but they had 5 takeaways. So they have been able to kind of thrive off of takeaways and kind of bandage the defense with that. If they can't do that, then you kind of have a problem. This is a defense that has 6 fumble recoveries and 10 interceptions. So they have 16 takeaways. Alcorn has 10 interceptions as well. I don't know if these numbers are right for Alcorn because they're giving Alcorn 7 games. Let me look at something because this doesn't seem right. Alcorn played 6 games. Yeah, they have the SWAC website has miscalculated Alcorn's numbers. Alcorn's at 192 yards per game on the ground, which is still good. They still are a team that want to run the ball. 152 yards per game through the air, 344 yards of total offense. Defensively, they're giving up 182 yards per game on the ground, 182 through the air. Their defense has 9 interceptions, and they have recovered 8 fumbles. So they have 17 takeaways. So both teams can force turnovers. And so to me, that means that whoever takes care of the ball is going to win this game for no other reason, because I think both offenses have had their ups and downs. Groundland's at 305 yards per game. Total offense, their rushing attack is at 91 yards per game. I think with Bradford and Hargrove, this team should be running the ball better. They just haven't really got it done. They run the ball 153 times for 458 yards, and they're averaging 3 yards per carry. They have the second fewest rushing attempts on the season. They just haven't really committed to running the ball. I think the backs they have, they should be running more. But you do have a solid passing attack at 214 yards per game. Miles Crawley has kind of been up and down. He got banged up against Prairie View. I think, coming off a bye week, I think he should be better in that aspect. He does have some guys to throw the ball to. Javon Robinson has 20 catches for 284 yards and a touchdown. Nick Howard, 11 for 128 and a touchdown. Jacoby Belazaire, 11 catches, 128 yards and a touchdown. Nick Howard, 8 for 116 and a touchdown. J.R. Waters made an appearance against Prairie View. So they have weapons in the passing game. They just have to be consistent, and they just haven't been that. Andrew Jones leads the defense with 49 tackles. Brendan Barley has 3 interceptions. Both teams, like I said, have done a great job of forcing takeaways. Alcorn, if they can keep the ball with their running game and not have to go to the air a lot, which, obviously bodes well if you're Grambling, they can make some things happen. Now, Truck Griffin is a mismatch for Alcorn. He has 22 catches from his tight end position, 201 yards. He's also been a guy that can run the ball out the backfield this season. So they're using him in a bunch of different ways. I think both teams are gonna have to be careful with the football. Grambling's offense, like I said, is so close to a breakout. I think this could be the week that it happens. I think they need to get to the point where they don't have to rely on turnovers. Now, if you get takeaways, that's great. But if you are at the point where you need those takeaways to be able to get short fields and to be able to get points, I think that kind of hampers you when you don't get them. So I don't, I think with two defenses that can force turnovers, you're going to see a few in this game. I do think Grambling wins this game, primarily because they're playing at home, and Alcorn has not had success in the whole um, going back to any time period. And you can always say, historical stuff like that don't really matter because it's different teams, it's different guys, but sometimes certain teams and certain matchups just go that way no matter who is on the field. And I think this can be one of those kind of games. I think it's gonna be another close game, but I think Grambling wins this game. Um, I'm gonna say 24-20. I think Grambling wins this game at home. Um, they keep themselves in the mix in the conference race, and Alcorn kind of has to kind of fade back for a week before they move forward. Taking a quick look um, at the week 8 schedule. Week 8 has 4 games on the schedule. Bethune-Cookman is at Valley. That's a 2 p.m. kickoff. These games are on October 19th. Bethune-Cookman is at Valley. That's a 2 p.m. kickoff. SWAC Digital Network. Pine Bluff at Grambling. That's also a 2 p.m. kickoff. The game of the week is FAMU at Jackson State. That game is going to be on ESPNU, 2:30 kickoff. I'm sure pretty much everybody going to be tuned into that game. And Southern and Alcorn are playing Saturday night. That's homecoming for Southern. So that's a big game also for both teams. But the game of the week next week is obviously JSU and FAMU. But we got a week to go before we get to that. And neither team is playing. Both they're the only 2 teams that are off this week as they get ready for that big game next week. Looking at the standings, JSU leads the East at 2-0. They're 4-2 overall. They won 2 in a row. FAMU is 1-0 in conference, 3-2 overall. They won 1. Bama State is 1-1 in conference, 2-3 overall. They lost 1. Alabama A&M is 0-1 in conference, 2-3 overall. They lost 2 in a row. Valley and Bethune-Cookman are both 0-1 and 0-5 respectively. They both lost 5 games in a row. In the West, Alcorn leads at 2-0. They're 3-3 overall. They won 2 in a row. Southern 1-0. They 2-3 overall. They lost 1. Texas Southern 1-1, 2-3 overall. They won 1. Prairie View 1-2 overall. 1-2 in conference. 2-4 overall. They lost 1. Grambling 0-1 in conference. 3-2 overall. They lost 1. Pine Bluff 0-1 in conference and 1-4 overall. They lost 3 in a row. So that's where we stand right now. Should be another entertaining week of SWAC football. We need a positive week of SWAC football. Last week, especially from the Southern perspective, was just a negative week. You need to put that behind you and move forward. And we'll be back tomorrow with SWAC Smoke live 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. And we will recap all the action on Sunday. Don't forget the week 7 pick'em is up. Link will be in the description, all on my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find it in all those spots. And with that being said, man, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC Seawell signing out, and I'm going to catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.